Okay, so every day I get tons of questions on TikTok about all sorts of questions. This will be episode 2, version 2, video 2, whatever we want to call it, of my most commonly asked questions. What is spatial disorientation? This is a really good question. I made a video on this, very quick, brief video, kind of explains it. So have you ever been in a car driving and you're at a stoplight and you're looking down inside the vehicle for whatever reason? You're looking at your phone or you're looking at your radio, and the cars beside you start to move forward. Have you ever felt like you're sliding backwards? What's the first thing you do when you feel like you're sliding backwards? You hit that brake pedal, right? You hit that brake pedal. That's just your automatic response to your body's sensation that you're rolling backwards. As soon as you look up, you realize the cars beside you were actually just moving forward. You weren't moving backwards. That's a slight taste of spatial disorientation. For that moment, you lost where you were in space. Were you moving backwards? No. But you felt like you were, and your body's response was to hit the brakes. So I want you to take that and put that into an aircraft, right? That was just one plane. You're just moving forward and back. In an aircraft, you can get these sensations that you're moving in certain directions when you're not. But not only can it be forward and back, it can also be in your pitch, your roll, and your yaw axes as well. So in a helicopter, this happens almost exactly the same time every time. And it's almost always when you go from flying out in VFR conditions, meaning you can see outside, to flying into the clouds. And as soon as you get into the clouds, you have no visual reference, right? Just like you can no longer see those cars around you. When you do that, your body loses the ability to determine which way's up. And there's a miscommunication between all of your organs that help orient you, your semicircular canal, your otolith organ. So you're sensing acceleration, decelerations, pitch, roll, and yaw, but you have a zero visual backup to these sensations. And it throws you way off. And I mean off to the point where aircraft have been flying upside down and backwards because they couldn't figure out which way was up. So initially, and you're like, how do you end up flying an aircraft upside down and backwards? Well, that initial moment where you feel disoriented, just like you stepped on that brake in the car, pilots want to put that aircraft where they think is level. And it's not the right input. Just like slam on the brakes wasn't the right thing to do, but your body just felt like you needed to do it. Flying an aircraft, your initial input is to do the right thing, but you're actually maybe taking the aircraft from level to nose up in a right bank, right? And you might feel like you're level here, and then you might feel off again, and you just lose control of the aircraft until you ultimately end up crashing. So majority of helicopter crashes are caused by spatial disorientation. In the Army, we handle spatial disorientation by hoping you recognize it, because sometimes you don't recognize that you're disoriented. You might feel like you're fine. You might feel like you're flying straight and level, but you're actually flying, 40 degrees nose up. Our initial training is to transfer the controls. Rarely do both pilots experience spatial disorientation at the same time. So you want to give the controls to the other guy or girl and make sure that they can fly the aircraft while you're jacked up until you overcome your disorienting sensations. Does wearing goggles mess with your depth perception? Yes, absolutely. You don't realize your depth perception until you lose it. I remember my first time flying goggles in flight school. So you go through this course, they have you play with the goggles, they have you learn how to adjust them, how to identify issues with them, etc. And then you go out for the first time and you fly at night, clearly, with your night vision goggles on. And everybody tells you, hey, you're going to lose your depth perception. So when you come into land, you might want to slow down a little bit more than you're used to.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So I'm like, okay, got it. My very first landing, I kind of blew past the pad. I didn't realize how fast I was going. And a lot of our techniques that we do to make up for your loss of depth perception is to look out to the side and look at the Earth as it goes by. That's how you can really judge how fast you're going, because if you're relying on your peripheral vision, which you have none at night, with your goggles on, you're not going to be able to tell your depth perception. And when you try to land somewhere and you blow past it and you're like, damn, I meant to land back there, then you really realize, wow, I definitely lost a lot of my depth perception. But it takes a little bit of getting used to. And after some time, once you get used to it, it's not bad. And then you fly with somebody that's newer that hasn't gotten used to it yet. And it can be a significant emotional event when they try to stop and then they realize they can't because they were going way too fast. Why are Velcros and zippers important to use? So if you've ever noticed on our uniform, which clearly somebody did, our uniforms do not have any buttons. We always have Velcro and zippers. All of our pockets are zippered. Velcros are pockets closed. Everything is Velcros and zippers, no buttons. And that's because of what we call FOD, or foreign object and debris. And that's essentially anything that could be a debris to the aircraft, engines, any moving parts, etc. So for example, our buttons, if you're up on the aircraft doing a pre-flight and a button falls out and you don't happen to notice it and it gets caught in the drive shaft while you're flying, could lead to an accident. So we remove all of our buttons from our uniforms, which is what I'm sure you've noticed, and we only have zippers and Velcro because highly unlikely that a zipper will fall off and Velcro isn't going anywhere. So yeah, our uniform I think has one button and it's around your waist, and that's it. What do crew chief actually do other than be talking side view mirrors?
Okay. All right.
A crew chief himself actually wrote that. Crew chiefs usually call themselves that, but they're actually a very important part of our crew. And you don't really realize it going through flight school, because in flight school, you're not flying with crew chiefs. You're flying with your stick buddy who's actually learning. So they're not really a proficient crew chief, and you don't really understand how important crew chiefs are until you start to fly and have some experience, and then you get in a situation where if I don't have a crew chief, I can't do this. Usually that's things like confined area operations where you're trying to fit that aircraft right into an LZ that's only slightly bigger than yourself. And if you think about it up front, pilots, we can only see our 3 and 9 o'clock positions. We can't see anything behind us. And you have tons of aircraft behind you. So in order to see when things are clear, you would have to be guessing, but your crew chief will help you clear that aircraft from sides behind you and let you know what's happening and where it's happening. In medevac, where it's actually really, really, really important is when we do hoist. If you guys don't know what hoist is, it's just picking up the person from off the ground when we come to a hover, bringing them up to the aircraft. We can't see anything that's going on. All we're trying to do is hold the aircraft steady, and everything else, we have no idea what's going on. Our crew chief, though, in the back, builds a picture for us and communicates with us what's happening. That way we can make the correct inputs to maintain a safe operation. For example, as the hoist goes down, we can't see as it's going down. We pretend an aircraft is here. As the hoist is going down, we can't see this. So the crew chief will be calling out the altitudes of the hoist on the way down. We can't see anything, right? So while they're telling us this, we're building a picture in our head. Medic is on the ground. Patient is connected to the hoist. The hoist is coming back up 50 feet from the cabin, 10 feet from the cabin, etc. They're also letting us know if we're drifting left or right because they're looking straight down. You can always pick up your drift way better by looking straight down than us up front looking out front, because our point of reference is way further away than theirs is. So not only are they operating the hoist, they're controlling the aircraft in the direction that it's going, telling us the mistakes that are happening that need to be corrected. And they're a very integral part of the crew. A lot of people do call them side view mirror viewers, side view mirrors, whatever they want to call them. But that's usually within the community themselves. Crew chief will kind of make fun of themselves and call themselves that. I think if I wasn't a pilot, I would definitely be a crew chief. A lot of our pilots actually were previous crew chiefs before. 15 Tangos, if any of you guys are looking into that. A lot of them use that as a stepping stone to become a pilot. So a crew chief is doing a lot. And this is just the ones I can remember off the top of my head, right? So if you ask the crew chiefs what they do, they're probably going to say way more than that. But their job is very, very detailed, and there's a lot that goes into being a crew chief. And the rear view mirror part is probably 2% of what they do. They do a lot more. Okay, why did I go with the Army instead of the Air Force? That's a really good question. So my story is a little different. I wanted college paid for. That was it. I needed to go to college, and I wanted all of it paid for. I applied for both scholarships, the Army scholarship and the Air Force scholarship. I received both. The contingent with the Air Force scholarship was that the Air Force was not going to pay for housing. The Air Force scholarship, for some reason, did not come with a housing contract, so I'd have to find my own housing. And housing was about $5,000 a semester. So I was going to graduate with, $40,000 in debt. Whereas the Army scholarship said, hey, man, we'll pay for everything. I was like, everything? And the Army was like, everything. So neither branch, when you start out, you're not guaranteed being a pilot in any of them. You have to do really well throughout the course of the course in order to become a pilot. So I went with the Air Force scholarship because it was a better deal, hoping to be a pilot at the end of it, and it just happened to work out. So those are my most commonly asked questions. Episode 2, right? I think we're on 2, series 2, whatever you guys want to call it. Let me know in the comments if you have any additional questions that you want to know the answers to that I might be able to provide you with the answers to. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys like the video, if you guys like what I'm providing, the information that I'm providing, like the video so I know, so I'll keep making these. Let me know.